Hello, guys, good afternoon, and welcome back once again in this amazing channel called Oda Class. What are we doing today? We're trying to have some tricks so that we can ace our exam. And who is going to tell you about it? My name is Udit Gupta. I'll tell you more about it. But before we move forward, let me tell you there's one more place where you can ace your exam even better, and that happens to be the Oda app, the most innovative live learning app that is present in this nation right now. Now, let me tell you more about something that Oda offers. It's there. The link is there in the description below. If you find it, you click on it, you're going to reach this bridge course. It's an amazing 1 week course that starts on Monday. That means it starts today. And not only are you coming here to learn some basic things, but you will be getting 6 classes in total, 6 sessions in total, 45 minutes each. I'm pretty sure you can learn a lot of concepts out there in this maths and science classes. Now, once you're learning, there are bound to be some doubts. A lot of places I see they just teach, they don't clear out your doubts. And that is where we help you with a personal teacher for your support. That means that you are, first of all, not going to miss any class. A reminder on your phone right there so that you are attending each and every class. Once you're attending those classes, you're facing some doubts, you're facing some queries. This is the teacher that you can get some support from. And not only this much, once you have learned all of things, once you're through with your doubts, you want to test yourself. For that, we have the homework on the app as well as test on the app there itself. It's a time to test, mind you. There will be some pressure, but that is what we are preparing you for. And once you're done with all the things, once you've learned the concept, you've cleared your doubts, you've done your homework, you've given the tests, with time you might forget things. And that is where you get the PDF books as well. So it's an all around course that can help you learn a lot of things. And if you want to get into it, you can see this link there in the description below. Just go out there, click on it, and you would be let into one of the best courses in this nation right now. Now, let me tell you a little about myself before we go into this session. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Udit Gupta, and I've done my BTech from MNNIT Allahabad. I will be teaching physics, and I carry more than 9 years of teaching experience. That means all of this experience will come first hand to you, and I hope that you take it very well. I've mentored more than 1 lakh students, and that means you could be amongst the next of them and you could be amongst the best of them. So, what are we doing today? We are having tips for examinations. Now, what are these tips that we're having? I'll take you one by one, and I hope that these tricks you're going to find useful. Now, what is the first one of them? It says use mnemonics, right? What is this mnemonic actually meaning? I'm going to tell you later in this session that how exactly you can learn things in a way that you don't forget it for a long period of time, and that you have your own way of remembering things. Mnemonics play a very important role in the junior classes where you have to learn things in topics that needs to be crammed that are not meant to be understood, and sometimes it just so happens that in physics you have some things to be remembered, and I'll make sure I'll give you some hints as to how you can remember those better. Talking about the next things, if you make analogies, right? If you try to relate one thing to another, you just have to remember the one thing and both the things are covered. So analogies are very important because it helps you understand that if you have studied half the portion, another half is already related. You just need to find that relation, and once you've found it, once you've struck it, you are going to see that the course decreases by a lot, right? A lot of you complain that the course is big, and the next thing that happens is that how do you attempt a paper, right? What are the ways that you will be going about in the paper? Now, let me tell you this very frankly, that it is not a unique answer that I can give you. It's not something that can be told to you that okay, you have to do like this. Every student is unique, every student has their own ways to take up these difficulties. I will just give you an idea as to if you are facing X difficulty, what can be the possible solution? We're going to take a look into this as well. And then we have how do we avoid calculation mistakes, some basic mistakes that we do. I'll just give you some basic ideas to how I have countered this, because I used to be somebody who was very poor in calculations. I mean, in very basic classes, in class second, class third, I would be given a question where I have to add or I have to subtract four numbers, they're given up and down. For the first two, I would add. For the second two, I'd subtract. So these are some very basic calculation mistakes that everybody does. So how can you minimize them and how can you avoid them to a maximum extent? That is something we'll also see. And finally, I'll tell you about practice as to how this practice thing is important. A lot of people keep saying about it, but during an exam, just before an exam, how can it be helpful? What exactly is it that you need to do? We're going to take up all of this. So let's start. Let's start with the first one, that how do we use mnemonics, right? लोग mnemonics कैसे use करने हैं? तो देखिए, mnemonics की जब आप बात करते हो तो there's a lot of ways that you can remember things like planets of solar system. Now, most of you would be knowing that there are 8 planets in the solar system. That you can say, how do we remember it? The planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Now, one of the ways is that you would say, mom visits every Monday, just stays until noon. So you have Memjsun, right? Or you can say, my very elderly mother just served us noodles. So it's up to you how you make it. It's up to you how you remember it. But the point is to remember these planets of solar system. A lot of you make a lot of ways. Now I remember one more thing. How to remember the months with their whole this number of days. So you have this knuckle. You said January, February, March, April, May, June, July, right? You have these knuckles, the elevated parts, they tell you 31 days, and the part with the depressions, they tell you the 30 days months apart from February. So these are the ways that you can remember. Now, if I tell you that there are even more things that you can do, if I tell you that this is something that I use as a mnemonic, now you will ask, how exactly do you do it? Let me tell you, what am I doing with scale? So if I say scale, first of all, I am talking about LED, right? I'm talking about LED, that is light emitting diode. And what exactly is the thing that I have done here? I will just say S and C means short and C is for cathode. So the shorter terminal in an LED looks like this. An LED looks like this. There is a shorter terminal, that is the cathode. And similarly, you can say this longer terminal, this long terminal will be the anode. So I have S, C, A, and L. So I have made a scale and I can remember the terminals of LED, that which one is cathode and which one is anode. This way, I will never ever forget. Whenever I see an LED, I would be able to tell this easily, right? If you don't believe me, maybe you can talk about this next thing, right? Pancakes. Now you will say, sir, I'm feeling a little hungry. That what is this pancakes all about? So if I talk about pancakes, I have made this particular term to remember the terminals in an electrolytic cell. So over here, I can say that P is for positive. Similarly, A is for anode. So P and A, PA. And if I talk about, let us say, N and C, I can say that N stands for negative, and I'm pretty sure you would have understood by now that C stands for cathode. So this way, PANC, pancakes. I remember it so easily, and now I will never forget that which terminal is positive and which terminal is negative. So these ways you can actually make sure that you have remembered all the things, and in such a way that you will never ever forget, and you will always be confident about answering your questions. So let's move to the next part. And if I talk about the next part now, this is making analogies that you relate one thing to another. I'll tell you one very simple thing in physics once again, that if you have to say find the distance d, you multiply speed and time. So you remember from here, there's a lot of things that you can tell from here, right? What are the things that you can tell from here? You can say speed equal to distance by time. You can also say time equal to distance by speed. So similarly, if you remember that force equals pressure into area, I think you can say that pressure equals force upon area, and you can also say area equals force upon pressure. So this way it is so easy to remember for you that if you remember one of the formulas, the second one becomes so easy for you. The second one you say, okay, this is something I've already studied. I don't need to put in that much of effort. Right? Let's talk about the next thing over here. And the next thing over here is that, let us say I'm talking about analogy again, that if I have static friction, what does static friction mean? The friction which acts between bodies when they are actually not moving. They are about to move, but they are actually not moving. Similarly, static electricity, which is also called electrostatics, the charge will not move. As simple as that. So the word static, when it comes with friction or when it comes with electricity, you can simply say that static in itself means things are at rest and done. That is where you relate two things. Friction and electricity are not related to each other, but you can relate through the word static and you can remember it easily. If I talk about one more example, similarly, if you have dynamic friction where things are actually moving, similarly, you have current electricity or you call it electrodynamics, and that is where the charges are also moving. So, this is how the analogies are seen. I hope that this made things a little easier for you. Let's talk about the next thing, that is how to attempt a paper. So, first of all, what you need to do is you need to stay calm. You need to stay focused. And you need to take the easy questions first. You just skim through the paper. You see that, okay, this question I know 100%, this I know, this I know, this I know. Maybe, just maybe, you only know 40% of the paper through that first skimming. But now you are assured that I can get 40% marks for sure, right? That is already there. I've taken these questions in which not much calculation is required, because whenever there is calculation, there might be mistakes, right? So if you take the easy questions, you become comfortable that, okay, you know what? I'm about to do this paper and I'm able to read out some of the questions. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do this much. And then now comes the other questions, that is the medium and the difficult level questions. So once you've done the easy questions and gain that confidence, once you've gained that confidence, you will see that those medium questions become easier for you, because you are now having that energy. You are in the flow, right? You have gained that form now, and once you gain that form, you just continue with it, and you're able to kick out those medium level questions out, which you thought, if you would just take it as it is, maybe you panic and you are not able to recall something, or maybe you do some calculation mistake. All of that will go if you just take those easy questions first. What about the next thing? The next thing is you should try. You should try. And this is where a lot of practice comes in. That you should try to give extra space for unattempted questions. Now, what happens in this case is that, let us say I'm doing question one, two, three, I did. And fourth, I thought that I'll do it at the end. I'm not getting it right now. Maybe by the end, it will strike my mind and I'll do it. So I leave some space for the question. Now, how much space is required? That is a very, very big challenge. That if you leave, let us say, 5 lines, and maybe you wanted to write down 6 or 7 lines, then obviously it would not fit in and you won't be able to answer properly. So, whatever it is that you feel, I'm gonna write this much, maximum I'll write this much, you leave 2 to 3 more extra lines. Once you leave those 2 to 3 more extra lines, you have that space to write even more if you want. And in case you don't want to write more, you can just draw a line over there and just make sure that the teacher feels that you wanted to write this much only, and you did not have this feeling that this is something I did it at the end. So try to leave some extra space first of all, and try to judge according to the according to the marks that are given. If it's a 1 mark question, hardly 2 to 3, around 10 to 12 or 13, 15 lines. Right. That depends on question to question. The next thing is sectionalize the time. Like I always say that if you read time, so for just calculate it accordingly. 1 mark, 3 mark, 5 mark, whatever it is, you just sectionalize your time and give every question prior importance that okay, I'm gonna write this much in this much in this, and this much in this. This makes sure that you have attempted the paper correctly and that you are trying to get the maximum out of a paper. Now, the penultimate thing, how to avoid calculation mistake. One of the biggest calculation mistake that you will see ever throughout the history of mankind, throughout the history of humankind is minus sign. Whenever the minus sign comes, either you are not able to subtract properly or maybe you do addition in place of subtraction. So whenever this minus sign comes, just make sure that your mind is tuned in such a way that as soon as you see minus sign, you are extra alert that you know what, this is the place where mistake might be done. So just make sure that over here you're not committing those mistakes. What is the next thing? Breaking into smaller steps. So whenever you get a question that's let us say it's a lengthy question, a 3 mark or a 5 mark question. So the teacher won't really focus upon the fact whether you've reached the answer or not. They would be focusing on the fact how many steps can you break it into? If you break a 3 mark question into 8 steps rather than breaking it into 6 steps, you have made sure that your probability of getting it wrong reduces. Why? Because each step you would have done a little more minutely, a little more accurately. You would have given it a little more time, but that would have ensured that you are not getting it incorrect. I'll tell you one of the very common mistake that I did. I mean, this is something that happened to me recently as well. That I'm trying to add 14 and 4 and I get it 16. I don't know why. Right. So 14 and 4 added gets 18. And that is where the whole flow of the question gets wrong. And later on, I realized that, okay, there was a very basic step. I just wanted to add some 5 numbers directly. And instead of reaching it till 18, I was reaching till 16. So that is like one of the major things that happen. And it happens to the best of us. So it's a very good practice to break into smaller steps. And the final thing that you have to check whether you answered what was required to be answered. Now, how does this matter? This in this particular case, if I take let us say another subject, let's shift our focus to let us say English language. So I remember that I had a question in essay that I had to write about something, and I wrote something altogether different. And out of those 25 marks, I got a big zero. So that is where I understood that sometimes we try to answer what we know rather than what is to be answered. So please take a good look into what exactly is the question asking you. Do not stray from whatever they are asking because they just need their answers. They don't want their random XYZ story, which you might think is the answer, but is actually not. Right. So this was just a general exam trick, not exactly pertaining to science or mathematics. And now comes the final thing. And I think that you are able to see what is this? This is a test. There is a clock over here. So always time your test just before you're about to give your examinations. That means if you want to practice, make sure you give as many as possible mock papers that are there. The more papers that you'll give, the more confident you will feel and the better off your result would be. So that was all from the session today. If you have loved it, do not forget to download Oda Class app. It is the best app right now in this country. And if you would check out what exactly are the things you can get, मैं बारिश कर दूं पैसों की, right? So there's a lot of coins to be taken, and these coins can help you towards all these goodies. You see, there's a water bottle, there's a Mi Band, a sound bar, a mobile phone. All of this you can win at our Oda app. If you would only come into the bridge course that starts today, there's a lot of things like I already said. There's 6 classes. There's the mentor teacher support. There's the homework and the tests on the app. There's the PDF books as well. And you can find the link in the description below. Just click on that link and make sure that you are studying with nothing but the best. So that was all from the class today. If you loved it, do like and share it with your friends. And if you don't want to miss anything, do press on the subscribe button.